Hi, K-pop lovers. Welcome back to the channel. Monsties, before you scroll past this one, if you've ever screenshotted a Chiquita fan cam just to zoom in on what she's wearing, this video is about to make so much more sense to you. Because buried in a Vogue Hong Kong cover story that most casual fans scrolled right past, there's a detail that quietly exposes something huge about where Chiquita's fashion journey is actually headed. And it gets even wilder when you realize the timing of it all. Stick around, because by the end of this you'll understand why one magazine cover might be the biggest fashion flex BABYMONSTER has pulled off, and why it almost didn't happen at all. Let's start with the part nobody's really talking about. Earlier this year, BABYMONSTER sat down for a cover feature with Vogue Hong Kong, reflecting on their meteoric rise, their world tour ambitions, and the lyrics that shaped who they are as artists. It's the kind of interview that reads like a coming-of-age moment for the group, 6 years of pressure, expectation, and constant comparison to their label mates finally giving way to a group speaking with real confidence about their own identity. But it's the wardrobe credits underneath those photos that tell a completely different story. Chiquita appears in a full Balenciaga look, dress and earrings, all Balenciaga, standing alongside her members in a lineup dressed head to toe in one of the most exclusive luxury houses on the planet. For a magnate who debuted at just 14 years old, wearing full couture from a house that dresses global A-listers isn't just a nice outfit. It's a signal. It's the fashion industry quietly telling you they see something in her. Here's where it gets interesting, though, because this Balenciaga moment did not happen in a vacuum, and honestly, it almost feels like it shouldn't have happened at all. Around the same period this year, Korean entertainment outlets reported something that completely flips the script on how you'd expect a rising girl group to handle luxury fashion. According to sources cited by OSCN, BABYMONSTER had actually been turning down a wave of ambassador offers from major luxury brands. Not one or two, a pileup of requests, arriving right after the commercial explosion of their CHOM era. And the reason wasn't a bad deal or a scheduling conflict. It traced directly back to YG's founder and chief producer, Jong Hyun-suk, who reportedly instructed the group to stay laser-focused on music and touring instead of chasing fashion contracts. The label's stance, according to those reports, was blunt. Politely decline for now. While their fifth-generation peers are out here stacking ambassador titles like trading cards, BABYMONSTER's own agency was actively saying no to that entire game. So sit with that contrast for a second. On one hand, you've got a label deliberately keeping its rookies away from the luxury fashion spotlight, worried that short-cycle brand deals might dilute an artist identity they're still building through albums and arena tours. On the other hand, you've got Chiquita already photographed in full Balenciaga for one of Asia's biggest fashion magazines. That's not a contradiction. That's proof of exactly how good she already looks doing it. It suggests that even inside a company actively saying no to the luxury circuit, there are moments important enough, prestigious enough, that the answer becomes yes. A Vogue cover isn't a random influencer gifting situation. It's an editorial placement that fashion insiders read as a statement of who's considered cover-worthy. And somehow, in the middle of all those rejected offers, Chiquita's face ended up there anyway. Now, if you zoom out from that one cover and look at Chiquita's fashion trajectory as a whole, this moment stops looking like an isolated flex and starts looking like the natural next step in a pattern that's been building for a while. Rewind to the CHOM era rollout, and you'll find an entire lookbook's worth of evidence that her stylists have been leveling her up outfit by outfit. In the CHOM music video alone, Chiquita cycles through an entire wardrobe of statement pieces, starting with sleek, gentle monster sunglasses that immediately give her a mysterious, editorial edge, before switching into leather shorts from Seoul streetwear label No Romance for a high-energy dance sequence that leans fully into a rebellious, baddie aesthetic. Later in the video, she's spotted in an eclectic mashup look, a graphic tank top from Chinese design label HUDIEGONGZHU paired with an avant-garde deconstructed handbag skirt from Namilia, finished off with purple gloves, a long chain, and embroidered boots. It's the kind of styling that doesn't just follow trends. It actively plays with high-concept, runway-inspired silhouettes that most rookie groups don't get access to this early. And then there's the moment monsties have already turned into a whole discourse of its own. Chiquita in a bold Mugler bodysuit, delivering one of the most talked about silhouettes of the entire Chom era. Fans immediately drew comparisons to Esposa Karina, who's worn similar corseted Mugler pieces in her own high-fashion moments, and the comparison wasn't a coincidence. It reflects just how quickly Chiquita's styling has been elevated to sit in the same fashion conversation as some of fourth-generation K-pop's most established visual icons. That's not a small comparison to be making about someone who's still a teenager in her third year as an idol. Even outside the Chom era, Chiquita's off-duty style has quietly built its own reputation. Long before the Balenciaga cover, Monsties had already been tracking her airport looks and personal fashion choices piece by piece, noting appearances in pieces from Thom Browne, Ottolinger, and Rick Owens, three labels that don't exactly scream safe rookie styling. They scream a stylist team that trusts her to carry directional, borderline avant-garde fashion and make it work. And that trust didn't appear overnight. Fans who've followed Chiquita since her earliest promotional cycles will remember a Magne who started out in far more conventional, straightforward practice room fits, gradually being handed bolder and more experimental pieces as her presence on stage grew. It's the kind of slow-burn styling glow-up that fandoms love to compile into then versus now edits, because the gap between her earliest looks and her current wardrobe is genuinely striking when you line the photos up side by side. When you line all of that up, the leather and gloves in Chom, the Mugler moment fans compared to Karina, the Thom Browne and Rick Owens pieces in her downtime fashion, the Balenciaga Vogue cover doesn't feel random anymore. It feels like the moment all those smaller style choices were building toward, whether YG intended it to be a moment or not. And it's worth remembering that Chiquita isn't operating in a fashion vacuum either. As BABYMONSTER's Magne and one of the group's two Thai members alongside Farida, she's constantly being weighed, fairly or not, against other young idols carrying the global visual torch for their generation. Every bold styling choice she pulls off successfully adds another data point to the argument that she belongs in that conversation, not just as a Magne still finding her footing, but as someone actively shaping what her generation's fashion identity looks like. What makes this even more compelling is the business context sitting underneath all of it. BABYMONSTER's Chom era wasn't just a fashion flex, it was a genuine commercial explosion, moving 387,871 copies on its very first day and topping iTunes album charts across 15 regions. That kind of number is exactly the moment luxury houses start circling, and it lines up perfectly with the timing of those reported ambassador rejections. Which means Chiquita's Balenciaga cover landed at the exact moment BABYMONSTER had the most leverage to say no to everyone else, and still end up in one of the industry's most prestigious editorial slots anyway. Think about what that actually means from a brand's perspective. Luxury houses don't hand out cover-worthy wardrobe access to just anyone, especially not to an act whose label has a reputation for turning offers down. If a house like Balenciaga is willing to dress the group, with Chiquita specifically photographed in a full look, not just a background accessory, that's the fashion world essentially applying for a spot in line rather than the other way around. It flips the usual power dynamic completely. Most rookie groups are the ones chasing brand attention in their first few years, hoping a single gifted item turns into a partnership. BABYMONSTER, by contrast, is in the rare position of being chased and still choosing to stay selective. Industry watchers have pointed out that K-pop agencies typically loosen these restrictions once a group hits its third or fourth year, when international recognition is already locked in and fashion deals become less of a distraction and more of a natural revenue layer sitting on top of an already established identity. BABYMONSTER is heading into exactly that window now, with a world tour expanding to 27 shows across 18 cities in Asia and Oceania alone, and dates across North America, South America, and Europe still to be announced. If that pattern holds, this Balenciaga cover might not be the last time we see Chiquita dressed head-to-toe in a fashion house most idols don't get access to until years later in their career. It might just be the opening move. So here's the real question this leaves us with. If YG is this cautious about letting the group anywhere near the luxury fashion circuit, and Chiquita is still getting cover treatment like this at 17, what happens once that no luxury policy actually loosens up? Because if one editorial placement was enough to spark this level of Monsties excitement, an actual ambassador deal down the line could be a completely different story. It also raises a bigger question about how BABYMONSTER as a whole is being positioned compared to their peers. Plenty of 4th and 5th generation groups lean into fashion partnerships early, using front-row appearances and ambassador titles to build visibility before the music has fully caught up. YG's approach with BABYMONSTER has been almost the reverse. Let the touring numbers and the album sales speak first, and treat fashion as something that gets earned rather than chased. The Balenciaga cover fits that philosophy perfectly. It wasn't announced as a partnership, it wasn't pushed as a campaign. It simply showed up as a natural extension of a group that had already proven, through sold-out arena shows and chart-topping sales, that they belonged in that room. For Chiquita specifically, that's a meaningful distinction. She's not being fashioned into a brand's spokesperson. She's being recognized, cover by cover, as someone the fashion world already wants to dress. Let us know in the comments which brand you think should be first to officially lock Chiquita down once YG finally says yes. And if you want more deep dives tracking BABYMONSTER's fashion evolution moment by moment, make sure you're subscribed, because this is far from the last style story we're going to be unpacking. Annyeong!